Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to get started in 1 or 2 minutes to let everybody join us. Hey, well, thank you everybody for joining us. Hello, we appreciate you being here. My name is Mario Munoz, and I am the Education Outreach Chair for the Women in Mining Arizona chapter. First, we'd like to say welcome and thank you for joining us today on the talk on In-Situ Copper Recovery Project in Arizona. Before we get started, we want to give you a quick overview and introduction into Women Arizona and why we're hosting these talks. So, Women in Mining Arizona chapter, or WIM, is a nonprofit organization with 5 objectives, one of which is to educate our members and the public on technology, economic, regulatory, and other mining related topics. These monthly dig ins are part of our efforts to meet this commitment. We'd also like to take the time to invite our members to come and volunteer with our education and outreach team. We're looking for volunteers that want to join either for our volunteering events or joining the committee. We meet bi-weekly and coordinate outreach efforts throughout Arizona. You can scan the QR code if you'd like to get involved. We'd also like to give a huge thank you to our sponsors. Our WIM Arizona Diamond sponsor is Freeport-McMoRan, and today's payload sponsor is Stantec. I'd like to turn it over to Nick Hind, who is a senior consultant project manager at Stantec, to give you a quick overview of what they do.
Well, good morning, good afternoon. This is Nick Hind. I'm senior consultant project manager for Stantec, based out of Chandler, Arizona. This screen, you can see the background of Stantec, 1954, all these good things about how much money we make and things like that. There's 6 continents that we work on, 400 locations, 2,600 people worldwide, globally. And what I'd really like to talk about today is how many women we have in our workforce, and we have like 35% globally that are women. So that's 9,100 persons. Each year it's been growing. So it's one day it'll be more than 50%, I'm sure. So from this office in Chandler, we have 300, just over 300 people. We have mining personnel, we have water personnel, we have people that do environmental services, transportation, including airports and roads, and water's a big thing here in Arizona for delivery of water and clean water. It's a huge part of our work. The mining is not just actual mining. I'm more of an underground miner myself, but it is surface works, tailings and such. And we have a great group of people there. If I can go to the next slide, please. What I really want to talk about today is next week on the 27th of April is Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work Day. And a long time ago, I think in 1992, it used to be Take Your Daughters to Work Day. And now they've converted it to Take Your Daughters and Sons, or Take Your Child to Work. And I'd just like to say, I'm a product of taking your child to work. Way back when, my father, who's a civil engineer, took me to work on a number of occasions, at least 4 that I can remember. And my memory is not that clear on exact details of these events, but I went to a highway construction project. I went to a construction project where they were building a huge dolphin aquarium. And also, I came from the UK, so back then they were building a facility for hovercraft to go across the channel. And later, when we moved to Arizona, my father not only was he a civil engineer, but he built underground mines. So he took me to Resolution Copper, where the company he was working for was building a number 9 shaft. Number 9 shaft is in fact part of the Resolution Copper project right now. But I think it's important, if you get the chance, to introduce your children to your work so they can understand what you do. And for me, you know, I have vague memories of these events, but I have clear pictures of being there, looking at the aquarium and roads and such, sitting in a chair, drawing some pictures. I think I was given paper to draw. And to think about it this year or next year or any time, most employees are quite comfortable with having you bring your children in, especially nowadays with remote work and things that are difficult for babysitting. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Certainly shadowing and for students to see what it's like certainly can have a big impact. So thank you for sharing that message. Now I'll turn it over to Megan Zivic, our president, who's going to talk and introduce our speakers today.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to introduce Lynn Ball and give her bio. Lynn has been involved in the mineral exploration industry since joining Copper Fox Metals in 2005. She provides a variety of administrative and corporate support. Her experience includes maintaining the mineral tenure requirements with the government regulators, along with ensuring company updates are shared with project stakeholders. We also have Josh Morales, has over 4 years of domestic and international experience in exploration for gold and copper. His experience includes, but is not limited to, prospecting, mapping, core processing, camp management, and managing exploration programs. He is currently a project manager and geologist in training at Copper Fox Metals. With that, I'd like to turn it over to both Lynn and Josh. And thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much for the invitation to Women in Mining's Dig In. And yeah, we are happy to present our Van Dyke project today. It is a in-situ copper recovery project, and I'm just looking for my little bar there. With being an exploration company, we will be sharing some forward-looking statements today. So of course we have to have our bit of disclosure here to ensure that you know, everyone knows that it is exploration, and nothing's written in stone at this point, but we're happy to share the Van Dyke project history, an overview, what is in-situ recovery, the Van Dyke in-situ copper recovery project, our resource and economics, and we'll end with any questions that people may have for us today. So again, a bit of the history. It's Van Dyke has been around for over 100 years, discovered back in 1916. And 1919, the Van Dyke shaft was sunk to about 1,700 feet. In the late 20s and early 40s, there was some production, just shy of 12 million pounds of copper was produced there. Then in the 40s through to the 60s, a number of different operators took a look at the project, but it wasn't until Occidental Minerals came into the scene that in the late 70s, they got interested into the in-situ copper recovery mining method. So during that period, Kosai Chemicals then came in as well, and they both were permitted for the process, and yeah, about 722,000 pounds of copper cathode was produced. So since then, in 2013, that's when Copper Fox purchased the project. And since then, we have completed a couple of resource estimates and economic assessment PEAs on the project. So the actual deposit itself, formed by precipitation of copper sulfides through the fractures and quartz veins. And the weathering resulted in the oxidation and transformation of the copper sulfides into the copper minerals that we're going after there today. The supergene process resulted in the downward percolation of copper. And the weathering produced the leach cap, which is a thick clay layer at the contact between the Gila conglomerate and the Pinal schist, overlaying the supergene copper mineralization. And the deposit is east tipping, ranges from about 9,000, 2,000 feet below surface. And it ranges from about 140 to 650 feet in thickness. So it is a classical supergene copper deposit. It has the upper leach cap, it has the oxide zone, then the chalcocite zone with the primary copper sulfates beneath that. So this is just a general schematic of how that supergene came to be in Miami there. And so a bit about what we're doing. Copper is critical at this point as the world transitions to a low carbon economy, the electrical vehicles, and as infrastructures gets updated. Copper is a big requirement for those for that economy. And so our objective is to produce 85 million pounds of grade A cathode copper per year. Now, the Van Dyke deposit is located primarily beneath the town of Miami, which is about 90 miles east of Phoenix. It is a prolific copper mining district. The geology is amenable to in-situ copper recovery. And it is the project's naturally fractured, with our initial investigations indicating there really won't be any need for rock stimulation. So that's a bonus. The project will actually be developed underground. So with it being, in the town of Miami, it works that we can go underground. And another benefit of the project is that with it being previously permitted, that helps when we're dealing with the ADQ and the permitting requirements. This project is similar to the Florence Copper project in Florence, Arizona. So if people have been following that project, that's kind of what we're looking to do as well, is what they've been up to. And at this point, our project is moving towards the pre-feasibility study stage. We have phase 1 of the hydrology monitoring and testing program underway as we speak. So what is in-situ recovery? In-situ leaching, ISL, or in-situ recovery, ISR, or solution mining is a mining process used to recover the minerals. And uranium was the main user of the process. And now, over the past number of years, they found with oxide copper that they can use ISR as well. So we basically would be pumping ours would be with using a weak acid solution into the ore body through a borehole, which circulates through the porous rock fractures, dissolving the ore. And it's then extracted via a second borehole, leaving the host rock in place, hence in situ. Copper is then recovered from the pregnant solution by solvent extraction and electrowinning. So this is a photo of one of our core pieces. And so it just gives you a real visual of the copper minerals that are throughout the fractures in the rock. So ISCR advantages. Of course, it's a lower carbon emission mining method, lower energy consumption, lower water use. This mining process, once it starts, it's a closed system where the water just goes up to the plant, and the pregnant solution comes out, and then the weak acid solution goes back down. So it's a closed system. So you're not using as much water as a conventional mining method. Definitely it reduces the environmental impact on the land, less social disturbance. It's a safer working environment for the miners themselves. And for the company, it's lower capital costs and lower operating costs. With regard to Van Dyke's project, additional advantages are that the underground well field reduces the length of the injection and recovery holes. It's developed below the known aquifers, and the Pinal schist host rock is covered by a leach cap. So that's a potential aquitard itself. The rock is naturally porous, and future exploration costs are reduced, again, because being underground, you're not having to take the well from ground all the way down. So our regional setting here, you'll see that the Globe Miami Mining District is quite busy. These black circles here are all of the projects that have been or are currently in the works. Again, another example of our core, showing you the mineralization through the fractures. And then this cross section gives you an idea. It kind of is from this area up here on the bigger map of the number of deposits in the area. Like, it's a very, as we said earlier, a prolific copper mining area. And the thing about the Van Dyke project is that this Miami fault, actually, our deposit fell off of it. So that's why it's been preserved over the years, because it's at a deeper level and definitely has been preserved. Now we're going to be looking at it from top view, and you'll see that, as we said, we're right over the town of Miami here. That is our deposit that we've developed, and you'll see that we also have quite a bit of exploration to the southwest potential. The potential for the project, you know, having a larger size is definitely there. And once you're down and working on this deposit, when you get near the end, that's when you would take the opportunity of maybe reaching out and exploring that southwest corridor. So when we took the project over in 2012-13, and the information that we had on file, we did produce a resource estimate followed up by a PEA 2015. And after that, we had realized that there were some areas that weren't quite, there was some missing parts. So we thought we would go back and do some new analysis on some of the holes that hadn't been totally closed off, and see with the analysis that they do in today's labs compared to back in the day when these were done, what we could come up with. And so it was a very successful reanalysis program. As you can see, the percentage difference from the original to the 2019. And you also see where we always look for the acid soluble copper, because that is the only copper that we're interested in being an ISCR project. Total copper, really, we wouldn't be going for. So that's where we have the acid soluble there for our numbers. So when we were finished that reanalysis, it also gave us a new geological kind of model and generated this cross section. So you can actually see the Gila conglomerate, the Pinal schist, and this leach cap, this clay layer that's above us, and that the oxide zone is right below that. And again, followed by the sulfide zone, which we would not be interested at this time. It wouldn't be economical to go for that. So we definitely want to just focus on this oxide zone. This is our deposit block model, and it definitely gave us the indication of where we were going to put our focus. And that again, we definitely have some exploration potential to the southwest there. And looking from the top, we would be, as we say, going underground, this would be our decline. This dot here, that's actually the Van Dyke shaft that was on the front page of our presentation. And so from the shaft, that's where we would be coming, our decline would be coming down, and then we would have two phases. Phase one, of course, going after the higher grade zone, and then coming back and coming into phase two for the lower grade. From the top view again, you know, for on the mainland, we'd have an SXEW plant. We will have some waste for the corridors that we will be, there'll be about a 10-foot by 10-foot type corridors that are underground for our well fields. So the waste that we are going to produce is probably equivalent to about 2 football fields, I've been told. So for a mining operation, quite a small amount of waste will be, and that, as you can see, this red line, this is our property. So it will be on our property. And then the underground development, this just kind of, again, shows the size that it will be, and just that, you know, for waste size, it's quite small, and yeah, the minimal water for this type of process. And yeah, so just some numbers there about the actual development. This here will give you the 3D geological view. So this, of course, is our ore deposit right here. This is our decline for the transportation getting down there. This is our Van Dyke shaft, the original one from 1919. And then the well fields. Again, a couple of different views here. Phase one would be our blue line here, and we've got our vent raise and our egress decline, everything that you need for an underground operation. And one more well field design with some of the injection and recovery wells. They're the yellow and blue. And again, phase one is our blue, phase two is the red. A total of 1,925 sub-horizontal wells will be used. Our observation and perimeter wells are not in this image, but the final well arrangement, of course, will depend on the UIC permit requirements. And again, I think we had said that the workings will be at the base of the Gila conglomerate, so 500 feet below the Gila aquifer. And this is the well field, how we would start. So you start with panel one, and when the production from panel one is exhausted, then we move on to panel two, panel three, panel four, panel five, obviously. And when that first phase is done, then we move on to our second phase. And, you know, we are still doing some metallurgical test work for porosity and the rinse solution contents. This would be the standard well design that we would be using. Again, it's used at Florence and Gunnison as well. It's where you have the one injection well and 4 recovery wells. So the pregnant solution, the acid solution goes down there, it percolates through, and then these recovery wells bring that solution back up. And we will be doing a pilot test pilot test group, just because we need to prove that there's some connectivity when we do this. And we do know that both times that Occidental and Coaside did this process, they received connectivity. So we are pretty confident that we can get it. We're even going to go, our wells will be a little closer together than the previous ones were. And that's how we're hoping to get some success there. Of course, these will be the wells. We have to have our injection wells. Then these are our recovery wells, and then our monitoring wells. So each of them have their own purpose. And they've been used previously, and so that's what we would be going with as well. And this is your standard kind of SXEW plant process. The way the pregnant leach solution comes in and goes through the clarification, they extract it, and then it goes into the electrowinning, and you end up with the grade A copper cathode sheets. Now, at closure, we of course have to rinse the well field to restore water quality, and that goes on for about 2 years. We really won't have a lot to do with earth structure reshape because we are underground. We would of course do something with the waste pile, and it mainly is the main focus is the treating the rinse water and continuing to show that everything is back to great numbers. So this is just to show why we're interested in Van Dyke, that, you know, at this point, the mineral resources, when we did do the 2020 report, we did end up moving some of the indicated into inferred. So that was a positive. And again, just another visual on where the Van Dyke fault is and where our mineralization is. And again, just for some information from our 2015 PA to our 2020 PA, showing that, you know, we increase the life of the mine, which is very important for, you know, producers that want to look at this type of project. The more years you have, of course, the more attractive the project is. And of course, it's very economic and safe way to mine, as you can see. And for the actual area itself, I mean, it's been a Miami Globe area has been, you know, a mining town since its inception, and that's why people are there. And with some of the projects in the area coming to the end of their life, it's kind of exciting for the town that, you know, we're looking at revitalizing this project. A direct jobs number coming in at 134 is very attractive, with indirect jobs of 402. These total operating costs, you know, at $1 billion, that goes basically right into like the Miami Globe area. That money stays in the area. And of course, we would be contributing to the Arizona state tax, the severance tax, and federal income tax as well. And we've always maintained a strong ESG policy. We've been a junior miner since 2004 and been involved with keeping all of our stakeholders apprised of what we're doing, and we've followed we follow strict environmental, social, and governance guidelines. And we like to engage with all of the local communities, First Nations, regulators, and we have been doing that since we took the project on, basically. And now that it's getting you know, a little further down the line, we're attending more events in the area and supporting local activities. And so for us on a individual project, these are the people that we are reaching out to on a continual basis. We've been out to San Carlos Apache tribe and had great meetings with them. We've been reaching out to a 40-mile radius from the project. We were really happy to attend the Apache Leap Festival in Superior in March. That was a great event. And of course, we keep the federal and state regulators up to date on where we're at. We deal with town of Miami on a regular basis and city of Globe And we're just happy to be able to reach out to local vendors and job seekers in the area. So that is basically our presentation of Van Dyke's In-Situ copper recovery project. Unfortunately, Elmer Stewart wasn't able to stay with us today, so that's why we've invited Josh to join us, and we would be happy to take any of your questions today.
Thank you, Lynn. We have several questions.
Okay.
Okay, so the first question I'd like to start with is from Corey, I believe. Her question was, public water supplies for residents near the site are sourced outside the immediate town of Miami, city of Globe area, owing to prior contamination to aquifers in the Pinal Creek region. How will CF ensure the project does not add to acidic leachate reporting to Bloody Tank Swash and other tributaries to Pinal Creek?
Yes, so water absolutely is the main concern whenever mining in a desert type environment, and we are actively working with the regulators as well as some providers of our water that would provide the water, as well as once with in-situ leach mining, which is again different than conventional mining. With it being a closed circuit, the only water that kind of stays on top actually that doesn't get put back into the ground actually evaporates. So with this particular process, even when the process is finished and the 2 years of rinsing, when the rinsing is done and it's coming up clear, then the project stops, and just that water that's already in the natural fractures of the rock 1,000 feet underground stays there. So at this point, there isn't any exposure to Bloody Tank Swash that we're aware of, but we definitely are investigating every possible concern about water.
And further to your point, Lynn, if I may add as well, to the question there, Corey, we are anticipating that the leach cap itself will act as a sufficient aquitard for any sort of fluids traveling in that region. Plus, we're also starting with the well field low and well below anything else happening. So hopefully that answers your question.
So I want to make, Daniel Stringham asked a couple of questions, and I want to make sure that these were went over, or if you want to expand on them. And Daniel's was, can you guarantee no contamination of groundwater, and then source of operation water, since we're discussing water, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the contamination, again, as Josh said, the actual solution is being released below the Gila conglomerate. So that's hopefully going to be a really successful aquitard. But the actual wells themselves, when we were on that one screen, and it shows you about 3 layers that these wells have, they've been proven to be quite leak proof, if to say, in easy terms. So with regard to leakage, that's where that well construction is very important. And then in our case, with the leach cap, we're hoping also gives a second type of protection there. And as for the source of water, we have been approached by a company that will be looking to dispose of water that is not potable water. You would never be able to use this water for any type of daily or consumer use. But it is water that we can use for our process. So at this point, that's what we're looking at. And because it's not a signed deal, unfortunately, we can't give any more information than that. But we feel very fortunate that there is a source that we will be able to use.
Ideally, yes, sorry to jump in there, Lynn. Ideally, it's not fresh water is what we want to stress. It's water that's been processed already. And so that's what we're hoping to basically use it as a already recycled water source.
You mentioned tribes. Are tribes involved?
Sorry?
You mentioned tribes during your presentation. Are the
Yes.
tribes involved?
So actually, when we went out to meet with the San Carlos Apache tribe, they actually were wondering why we were coming out to visit them, because they really said, we have nothing to do with the town of Miami. We'll have nothing to do with your actual project. So we wouldn't really have any say on what you're doing. And we said, well, not that you're in our 40-mile radius of, keeping people apprised of what we're wanting to do in the area, and that we'd be supportive of any type of collaboration that they may be interested in the future or anything. So it was more introduction, and at that point it was a very nice meeting, and there was no concerns that came out of it.
Have you done testing? Tony Hammond asked, have you done testing on presence of gypsum carbonates to make sure there's no negative carbonation effect on the process?
We have, and we're continuing to do that. And we're actually in our phase 1 project hydrology, and we're going to be doing some more testing and continue, because that is one thing that's different from our project to, for example, Gunnison, is we don't have any carbonates. So that again is a very positive for the Van Dyke project.
What is the grade of, Daniel Stringham asks, what is the grade of the care shown?
The grade of the
Care shown? Does that,
so I know that the project itself, Josh, do you know, like the
grade of the cairn?
he said great. So Daniel, maybe you can.
Oh, of the core. Okay.
Oh,
The grade
okay,
of the
you mean
core.
core?
Okay.
okay.
I just saw that pop up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with the grade of the core, obviously, I guess you can refer to, Corey, you can refer to that chart that was in the presentation there with our 2019 numbers.
Oh, I see
with
that.
the acid soluble specifically. And you should be able to see the interval in there, I believe, if you go back a few slides.
Yeah, so I think the average is 0.32 or something, somewhere in that.
Well, and I know also there was a question in here I saw, I wanted to answer that as well, is that the approximated, like the recovery of the project, we anticipated as of 2021 to be about 76% recovery. But yeah, there, Corey, on the slide there, hopefully that answers your question as to kind of the grades we are expecting from certain intervals.
Okay, so that was the projected hopper recovery was Tony Hammond, and Corey asked, could you confirm well-filled layout geometry? Slide 22 showed a series of fan holes drilled off the UG working. Slide 23 showed a typical 5-spot well-filled layout in a plan view. presumably with vertical wells drilled from surface and screened in the appropriate mineralized zones of interest. Are the fan holes drilled for exploration purposes, or is this how you'll instill the SIL wells?
That is the ISL field well. It is going to be horizontal wells. And yeah, so from each area, it fans out. Yeah.
Okay. Corey also asked, Lynn, how will CF maintain an inward hydraulic gradient in deeper bedrock aquifer during operations? Will an inward hydraulic gradient affect your mining neighbors, FMI, BHP? I understand the deposit and leach zone are below the alluvial aquifer and bloody tanks wash. Will you be rinsing well-filled post-leaching or relying on natural attenuation or other geological features to prevent, retard post-leaching migration of residual spent solutions?
I
So
can answer that,
Yeah,
or
go
if you'd like. Okay.
Yep.
So, yeah, Corey, definitely we are going to be rinsing the well field post leaching for sure, as mentioned earlier in the presentation. As far as confirming that the gradient will be inward towards our project and not going into our neighbors like FMM and BHP, some of our further testing is going to hopefully confirm that. And so I can't give you confirmation on that at this point, but that's what we are working towards delineating to make sure that we don't step over any bounds for sure.
Yeah, and that's where unfortunately this as the project gets developed further down the road and we get closer to that pre-feasibility study, these types of images would then start incorporating the observation and perimeter monitoring wells. So those wells would be as close to our project border as possible. And should something be moving over to FMI or BHP, that's where these wells will let us know that.
So Daniel Stringham asked the process of the acid source. And that actually ties into Mary Kay Mackey's what is the sulfuric acid source and expected consumption quantity. So I hope I hit both of you guys on that one.
Yeah, I believe what I've been told is like for 1 liter of water, there'll be 5 milliliters of acid. So it's almost comparable to household vinegar, the strength of this acid. So because the natural fractures are, and we even when we take core samples out to show people, you'll see that the copper minerals just flake right off, like they just fall right off. You have to like clean the table after you're showing people them. So it's a very weak acid solution. And I believe, the where the acid comes into Miami right now, the plant that receives it, I believe we would be reaching out to the same source that's being used today in the area.
Yeah, and for some specific numbers here, I guess if you want to hear them on acid consumption, it got as high as 23.69 kilograms per kilograms of copper, and then as low as 0.72 kilograms of acid per kilogram of copper.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's questions and comments. If you guys would like any more questions to be passed on, we can send them to Lynn and Josh at a later date.
Great.
Well, we'd like to thank Lynn and Josh for being here and presenting, giving us all that information. It was great to have you here. So once again, thank you.
Thanks,
With
Mariam.
that, folks, we're gonna
course.
be,
Thank you.
oh, yeah, for sure. We're gonna be wrapping up our slides. We got a couple less announcements. We want to invite everyone to mark your calendars for our next dig-in, which will take place on May 2nd. And we'll cover the effects of long-term topsoil stockpiling on soil quality for land reclamation. So registration link will be sent out in the chat. We also would like to invite any WIM Arizona members interested in joining one of our 8 subcommittees to reach out to us. We are on social media and the website, so feel free to reach out. And particularly our Education Outreach Committee. Again, we're looking for enthusiastic volunteers that want to help put programming for K through 12 as well as community involvement and outreach. And one last announcement is that we do have our 2023 scholarships open already. So if you know of any undergraduate or graduate student that is in an Arizona public university or college, you can send them the link and they can apply to our scholarships. Once again, thanks everyone for joining us and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.